first I went to a light realm that had different colored streams and trees and music that I'd never heard before. But then from there, I was taken into the golden light. This golden light was an experience. It was not just a place. And I'm already getting emotional because it was completion. Like, it was absolute wholeness. It was completion. It was fullness. There was no body in this place. There was no consciousness really, except for the greater consciousness, the great consciousness, where nothing that I cared about on earth mattered. It was all love. Everything was right. Everything was perfect. Everything was beautiful.
If we are a collective, then who goes back to that collective? Do only certain people go? Does every soul go back?
Okay? I have chills.
Tell us why this is the masterclass and why not all souls come here.
So, as I understood it,
So we are going to go back to Jesus and the questions because he gave you answers to different things. You said that it was communicated to you what our purpose is here. All of us, not just you, not just me, but all of us. What is our purpose, Ellen?
okay, I want to tell you how.
My guest today is Ellen Wier, who had an NDE when she was young. What if you knew that you were perfection? How would that change how you live your life? Well, Ellen's experience is pretty extraordinary because she was connected with infinite knowledge, and she had a conversation with Jesus where she was shown things that she is going to share today. She doesn't have any memories before her NDE, yet this NDE is seared in her memory, and it has been a directive for everything that she does in her life now. So, Ellen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and to share my story and to get to meet with you.
And I am so happy because we were blessed to be together at the IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, this summer, and we got to actually go to dinner together. So I have been so excited to have this conversation with you because I have loved your NDE for a very long time.
Oh, and I've loved you for a very long time.
So here we are in our divine orchestration of this meeting, and we're going to go deep because this is a super deep NDE, not only with what you experienced, but what you brought back. So I'm going to let you just have the floor. You tell about your NDE any way that you want. And then when you're done, we will ask questions.
Okay, sounds good. I can't, my cheeks are hurting because I'm smiling a lot.
Love it.
Well, my NDE started when I was 12 years old. I used to ride horses. And the day that I went in, it was my first Western lesson after riding English prior to that. So I wasn't wearing a helmet. And horses, they don't always like to have the saddles put on. So they expand their belly. The cinch wasn't tight on this horse. And when I got on, the saddle slipped, the cinch slipped. And I eventually fell off of the horse and it reared up and kicked me in the right temple. They took me to a local hospital in Texas that didn't have the ability to take care of me. So they took me into Dallas and I was in a coma for 5 days. And I don't remember anything before my accident, but I remember my near-death experience like it was a life experience more strong than what I've ever been through. My parents were told to play movies at my bedside because they said, we can't do much for her, but you can just play her favorite movies and maybe that will help. And on this 5th day, they played a movie that was predominantly classical music. And that comes into the story later because it's the full circle to how I came out of the coma. It was Tchaikovsky music. So I found myself on a raft. It was kind of a wooden raft. This is a little bit what it looked like. I was standing on these large wooden rolls, like giant, like massive tree rolls. So it's not exactly like this, but the air around me was pink and it just I felt safe. I felt connected. And in front of me, I saw Jesus, who I recognized. And to the left of me was a man in long brown robes with bare feet. And I didn't know who he was, but I felt very safe. And they didn't communicate with me at that time, but I was lifted from raft of sorts into a different realm. First, I went to a light realm that had different colored streams and trees and music that I'd never heard before. And it was this fascinating world, okay? But then from there, I was taken into the golden light. This golden light was an experience. It was not just a place. And I'm already getting emotional because it was completion. Like it was absolute, it was wholeness. It was completion. It was fullness. There was no body in this place. There was no consciousness really, except for the greater consciousness, the great consciousness, where nothing that I cared about on earth mattered. It was all love. It was all, everything was right. Everything was perfect. Everything was beautiful. And I became that golden light. It was like a warm, full, weighted blanket is the best I can describe it in human terms. Is like just this weighted energy all around my form. I didn't have a body, but it was so heavy and full that I just kind of, it melted into me, and then I just became the light. I was expansive. I was golden energy, golden light frequency, whatever it is. And then I went back to the raft, and in that moment, Jesus started to communicate with me through his thoughts. And I was invited to stay or come back and live on earth. And my initial choice was to stay. I have to say that. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to stay. This is me. This is it. This is whole and beautiful and feels so good. But I was shown the trajectory of my father's life and a little bit of my brother's lives. There was no right or wrong. I need to make that very clear. I could have chosen to stay. I could have chosen to come back. The universe would have course corrected. Everything would have been fine. However, I was shown that my father wouldn't actualize his purpose in this life. I didn't know what that meant, but I was just shown that. And my soul made the choice to stay. So when my soul made the choice to stay, that's when all the feeling came back into me. I think that's when my soul body was moving, connecting with the human experience in that moment. I was shown things like why we're here now, why it matters now, what's happening, what's coming, that our thoughts create our reality, that most of what we think about on earth is a distraction of what we really are, which is our God presence, which is a light, which is this much bigger energy than we are in human form. And then I realized it was a gift to live, and a huge gift. And my soul and my human, I was just so grateful. I don't know what part of me expanded in that moment, but there was just this expansion of heat from like the heart. It was this expansion. And I made a vow. I was so grateful to get to live because I knew that not all souls get to do this. This is the next level training ground. This is the master class, right? This is the master experience, the highest of high. And I gave gratitude and I said, I choose to come back and heal people with music. As a 12-year-old like little soul, I said this. And then I made another vow to give thanks every night for every experience that I come across because I know it's a gift. And I cry now because I've been through some really difficult things. And I talk about that in my book, the things that I've been through: divorce, dissolution of family, um, Lyme disease. And now I'm helping, I just did sacred partnership with my husband, and he's going through a brain injury. It happened 2 weeks after our ceremony, so to be in this experience, I say I give gratitude every night for every experience because I do know that it is for me. It's happening for me. And after I made those vows, everything went dark in a good way, not in a bad way. It was like the womb kind of energy. I call it the void. And my spirit was just there, and there was this musical staff in the distance. And anybody who knows music knows there's 5 bars, right? 5 lines, and then the music notes go up and down on each line. And if you can read music, you know what it's doing. But I saw a staff like that with music notes just moving along the staff, and they were all different colors, but I couldn't hear anything. But I watched it and just was transfixed by it, and it got bigger and bigger. I assume because it was getting closer and closer, it kind of just went through me. And as soon as it went through me, there was this pinprick of sound. It was almost inaudible, I could barely hear it. It's kind of like you think you're crazy. Am I really hearing something? Am I not? And so I honed in on that sound. And I know now I was bringing myself back into my body through the music. And I focused so hard on that sound until it was so loud in my head that it was booming. And the only thing I could do was open my eyes to escape the sound. I was like, I forced my eyes open, which was not an easy thing to do, by the way. Forced my eyes open, and I was in the ICU. The music was playing on one of those little rolly cart TVs next to my bed because they were playing movies for me, and it was running the credits, and it was classical music, and I woke up out of the coma. They don't know how it's possible. Only one other person in the state of Texas had survived that type of injury. She had been 16 at the time and had been confined to a wheelchair for her whole life. So, they couldn't really explain it. But there I was. And then I immersed myself in music. And then the rest of my story is actually quite fascinating too, because Source kept me on the path to keep going and to find out full circle who that other being was that was next to me on the raft. I found that out in grad school. And it's a fascinating part of the story too. But I'll stop there because that's my near-death experience.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be a long conversation, everybody who's watching, because people have been watching my channel for a long time. I believe that these NDEs are the icing on the cake. The real gold nuggets are this wisdom that you've accumulated because you've had to integrate this experience over many, many years.
Yeah.
And the wisdom that an NDEer brings back and accumulates over time, they share with somebody, and it's like a gold nugget that you're taking and you're throwing to the audience, and they can take the information, extrapolate it, and implement it in their lives. And you have brought up so many topics. Why we're here, why now, thought to create a reality. This is the most difficult place to learn lessons. God presence is what we're trying to get back to. It is a gift to live. Not all souls do this.
Nope.
And music as colors and everything is happening for me, not to me. So many things. Okay, so I don't want to start with the grad student remembrance first. I want to save that for last. So let's save that for last. I want to start with this experience that you had of consciousness. And what do you understand us to be? What's the delineation between this, you being this kind of this humanish thing on a raft, to being the consciousness? What do you think that is?
I think it's a gift, first of all. Like, I mean, I don't know how I got to do that. But I think I was shown that because it's what I try to bring back for everyone that I work with, to be honest. It's the core of everything that I do. It's the barometer for everything in my life. If it holds that same kind of energy, even a glimpse of that same fullness, that love, that feeling that I had when I was there, I'm meant to work with it. And so for me, it's been a guide, a teacher. It's something that I channel. It's something that I want everyone to experience because I know it was a gift for me, but I also know that we all have access to it. We can all be there. Even if we haven't had a near-death experience, we can have a spiritually transformative experience. We can access that on some level. And so my goal in my whole career, which is part of the grad school thing and how I figured out how to do it, um, is music. Is accessing that frequency, that light through different modalities, through music, through frequency, through sound, through scent, even through visualization. They're different practices of connecting to the light, and I just bridge them all together so people can find it for themselves. Like I say, don't take my word for it. I want to take you there. So I guess that's the point.
Okay, so if we are a collective,
Yeah.
then who goes back to that collective? Do only certain people go? Does every soul go back?
All souls are part of this collective. This is at least from what I understood, there's no name for it. There's no one way. It is available to all at all time.
And
So
not just
three,
souls from Earth, apparently, because you mentioned something that I've had a few people talk about, which is that not all souls choose to have an incarnation here because this is the masterclass, you called it. I love that
yeah,
term for it.
yeah.
Tell us why this is the masterclass and why not all souls come here.
So as I understood it, as it was given to me, this is the ultimate experience of expressing and expanding our light in order to become fully free in our God essence, right? This is how I see it. So when we are God, which we are all God in human body. Um, but as God in that place of golden light, there's no way to understand or experience the way that we do on earth. There's no way. It's not like it's God's drama or entertainment. It's not like that. We are actually expanding consciousness through our work on ourselves here and on our in our own journey. And everything that we encounter and do is helping us to expand our God light by choosing love over fear. And so in that place of being all one, all knowing, there's there's no way to truly grow because we know everything. We know everything's perfect, everything's wonderful. It's not needed to grow. It's already divine. So by coming here, we can expand and express our light through art, through creative practice, through engaging with each other, through talking, through podcasts, through writing, through art, everything, to music and like food and connection, right? So this is our opportunity. They showed me that the frequency of the universe, these waves of God are big waves. And we as human have these smaller frequency waves. And we are needed because God can't access those smaller frequency, but everything we do expands that frequency. It's like we're constantly creating more of the universe, more expansion because it's infinite already, but it's because we're co-creating as we go. Does that make sense?
Yes, completely. So, Ellen, for people who don't understand this, these are very advanced concepts. These
Yeah.
are things that it's taken me years and years to understand and to grasp and to really embrace. And I had a recent conversation with somebody who has more of a religious view. And in her view, she thinks that she's this insignificant creation of God, little teeny tiny piece that God made, that like a puppet is dictating everything in her life. And I think a lot of people who have grown up with religion have believed that. But you said the same thing that I believe, that not only do you have God in you, but you are God. We are all a piece of the divine. How can you explain this in human terms to help people understand?
Well, I would start by saying that anything that takes you away from your own power and knowing of your God essence is not of the light, right? So I would say that there have been cases where religion and belief systems have been used in order to limit people and minimize that ability. Because imagine how powerful we would all be if we all knew that within us we are God, that we are not only the likeness of God, but we hold God energy within us. That's a powerful place and can be used for great good. It can be used for extreme good. And so I would say that I would remind everyone that anything that takes your power away, it's not worth your attention. To hold the power and wisdom and knowing that you are a beautiful instrument of God, but also you are God. And that, and so for me, this has been, especially the past year, has been a lesson for me in exercising because I've always known it. But how do you put it into practice when you're in the middle of something difficult or horrible or devastating or unexpected that has turned your life around, that has stripped you of who you are or your physical ability, that has stripped you of all the things that you love that you thought would be there for you, right? This life that you thought you would have is gone. How do you practice this knowing in that moment? And it's a choice. You can give in to the defeatism and you can live your life and believe that others have power, Or you can start practicing your own power. You can meditate. You can go inward. You can start to listen to binaural beats when you go to sleep and teach yourself to leave your body like I did. So because I do it for other people, I was like, I take people out of their body all the time. That's my work. We hold the frequency, the container, and then they leave their body. They connect with angels. They connect with God. They get messages. They come back. And for me, it happened so randomly. I could sometimes know when it was going to happen because I could create it with certain modalities, right? But sometimes I would just randomly be taken out of my body and meet with some kind of ascended master and receive some message in the middle of like a music ceremony or something, like a retreat I talk about in my book in Hawaii, where I was just taken out of my body and someone had to bring me back again. Um, but I thought, if I'm in this experience, I want to understand. I don't want to escape from it. I don't want to go into the human escapism and like and feel good and get away from it, forget about it and ignore it. I want to go out of my body. I want to fill my human body with light. I want to be able to propel myself out of my body, go to the other side and ask directly of my God presence, what is this and how do I understand it better? And so that's what I'm trying to say is like take yourself into these experiences that take you closer to your God presence. Dance, sing, meditate. Essential oils are huge. Holding a high frequency with the foods that you eat is also very big. There are so many ways to do it. This is just a little bit of how I do it. So,
I am so glad you shared that. Oh my gosh. These are so helpful because you're not just talking about what happened to you, you're talking about how you can implement this. And one more thing I want to add to what you said, because you mentioned it earlier, it's definitely my practice. This is the thing that brings me more joy than anything else in my life, which is the practice of understanding that everything is happening for you and not to you. Even the bad things, even if you can name every even if, it's
yeah.
all conspiring for your highest and greatest good that you may not be attached to. Will you elaborate on that part, Ellen?
Yeah, I love that because yeah, I did a lot of work with a man named Jack Canfield who wrote The Chicken Soup for the
Oh my gosh, yes.
He is a mentor and friend of mine, and he's actually the one that titled my book and gave me a little like endorsement. But he mentored me on writing this book because I was working with him in some project, and my story came out, and I was working with him on this abundance manifestation project. And my story came out, and he said, "Well, you've got to write 80 pages. You have an amazing story. You need to share it." And I said, "I'm not a writer. I just don't do it. I can't see myself doing that." And he's like, "Just 80." He said like 3 or 4 times, "Just 80 pages, Ellen, just 80." So I started mentoring with him. We started working on manifestation. Anyone who's seen The Secret knows he's in that too. And he brought me to this concept of it's happening for you, not to you. And the way that he activates that in his life and he gives to other people is he says, so maybe you don't believe it's happening for you yet. Why don't you act as if this were happening for you and you were acting as if it's happening for you, what would that version of you do? And when you can put that into action, right, you start to be able to see the fruits of it because you don't have to believe it when you start. And actually, that's how manifestation and like understanding your God presence works. You're not going to believe it yet, but you will because basically belief and faith are having continued action toward that belief, even when you don't yet know it to be true. So if you continue to act as if, act in faith, act in your belief, you will be shown over and over again that you're on the right path, that you've got it. Signs will come to you. You will hear synchronicities. You'll see like repeated numbers, 1111. You'll hear songs on the radio at the perfect time. You'll have visions. Animals will come to you. Start looking. You see an animal that you don't normally see? Go look up the spiritual meaning. Colors have meaning. Red is rooted, ground, earth, safety. Orange is compassion, nurturing, mothering energy. There's so much that you can learn. Every single thing has meaning. And once you start to practice this, you start to say, hey, I had this dream. And then you start to go deeper. Oh, I'm seeing numbers, repeated numbers. I'm having this, I'm having that. And over time, actually, spiritual gifts start to develop because that's what the time that we're in right now. You know, people are like, I think it's going to sound crazy, but I'm starting to have these visions at night where I'm taken out of my body and I meet with this. Can you help me with it? I'm like, not only can I help you with it, let's celebrate it because that's where we are. That's consciousness right now. Like next level. Welcome to the new experience of Earth. Let's just say that.
Oh my gosh, Ellen, so many things you said. So I'm going to go back to something that Jesus said to you when you had the conversation with him. So before I ask you this question, will you describe how he appeared to you?
Yeah. He was first of all, he was love. He was complete love. And I do want to say that the teachings of Jesus are very powerful for me and I think for the world right now because I believe that he came as a teacher to teach us to access our God self directly. I don't think, in my opinion, that he came to be the gatekeeper, the in between. I believe he came here to teach us that we have the power within. So the I am is beautiful and huge to me. The I am that I am light, I am love. Anything that you can say to activate your I am presence. That's what I call the God presence. But in that experience of Jesus, and I've had many, um, he appeared to me in simple white robes and the most loving, precious, wonderful, like kind energy that you could ever experience. And he didn't say much, really. It was mostly me vowing to him and gave me the opportunity to come back and to choose that. And I'm so grateful for that. And he's come to me multiple times, and sometimes he's even come back to me with the other guide that was on the raft there. And I think it's going to blow people's mind when they find out who that was, because a lot of people wouldn't think to see the two together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did his face look like?
It looked like the traditional soft face of Jesus that we all know. It was mostly his eyes that captivated me. It was like pools of love.
Oh, you're not the first person I have heard use that term, pools of love, with
Oh,
Jesus's eyes.
yeah, it was like it was like pools of love. And I don't know why that word comes to me because I don't understand it necessarily, except for that there was a glistening, like an element. It was like its own thing. Like the eyes were very, very important.
I think I know why the eyes are important because it's part of what I've been shown being on the other side. It somehow anchors the love. I think it's the portal that we access the love through. And don't they say that the eyes are the window to the soul? And if the soul is complete, unbelievable love that we don't experience on earth, why would that not be a pool of love that
Yeah,
he's
yeah, 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 yeah.
sending out
I've
to the
heard that
world?
too, that like the most energy can come out through our hands, our feet, and our eyes. And I know that when I'm working with people every single time, there's always light drawn behind the eyes and into the third eye as well. But behind the eyes specifically, I always see it moving there and connecting to nerves and kind of just using, I don't know if it's like using the eyes. I know that I know now for a fact that the light and water element within us work in unison and the water element within us transports the light and each cell has consciousness. So as we state our intention for the work that I do and that we all do, when we speak to the water in our body, it actually helps to move the light through, which is how I taught myself to kind of leave my body to reconnect with the other side again when I was seeking answers and when I was confused and lost and needed that. So I do know that eyes are a very powerful part from what I witness as a practitioner. I see that. Yeah.
Since you talked about, and I want to get back to my question with Jesus, I promise that was coming. But when you talked about the water just now, I have to ask you this question right here.
Yeah.
Is water a living
Yes.
entity?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
going to say, okay, everybody's going to laugh if they're seeing this because we're on single view right now. But I brought back this water from my cabin, from my well, because it's the best water. And I know it's in a Diet Mountain Dew, which I do drink a lot of, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a drink of this special water from my cabin that I'm almost out of.
And we
But she's
bless the water. We just water. Oh, water. I could do a whole thing on water. And water's been, it's gonna sound strange, but water has been communicating with me over the last year. I've
okay, then you know what? Let's not go deep into this.
Okay.
Let's do another podcast where we actually talk about water because I think that there's a lot coming out about water. Do you want to?
Yes, and there's so much coming out about water, and anyone who wants to learn in the meantime, if you can follow Veda Austin on, Instagram, she has taken the studies of Dr. Emoto, who showed, we speak consciously over water and it changes the crystal formation. She's actually done her own studies, has tens of thousands of students, where she's taken water, put it in a petri dish, and then put it in the freezer to freeze to show her children, and found that it was imprinting on the words underneath the petri dish. So it was showing the words in the crystal formations of the freezing, and it would show images. So it was picking up images underneath. She's then like expanded her work to be able to talk to water, and then it answers her in the petri dish. So she'll say, who are you? And then she'll freeze it, take it out of the freezer after 5 minutes, and the words "I am" are written there. And she's
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
And she's painted, like, fantail feathers on a bird and then dipped the paintbrush in the petri dish, put it in with the water, frozen it, and it recreated the fantail feathers she was painting. She's taken it and put it on an altar in a chapel, and then taken that water home, frozen a part of it, and then it shows the chapel. It actually creates the image of the chapel. Your water would likely, with her method, show your cabin,
It
it would
probably would.
it and so, yeah, so there's so much she's doing and she continues to do. I was on her show in the last 6 months talking about how I see
I'm gonna link that right
yeah, link
here
it.
of the
Yeah.
two of you. I know it takes me
Oh,
off my channel, but I just don't
yeah,
care. This is all about awakening everybody. And I
yeah,
know people are like, don't do that. But yes, yes,
yeah.
I'm going to do that.
It was just a portion of a larger workshop she did, but yes, absolutely, and so we'll talk water because the messages water's been giving me, it's all about divine feminine, the awakening of the feminine. I've seen actual
I
numeric
just got goosebumps when you said that, like in my head.
She is flow, and this is flow, and we are water. I am water, I am light. We are water, we breathe water, and we can create intention in water that brings intention into our body. We can talk to our blood cells. It's just showing me so much, and miracles upon miracles have happened for my husband who has a very bad neck injury, and he's lucky now to be walking at all. And throughout this process, miracles have come through the water. Absolute miracles. So I'm just gonna say that'll be a great one. Let's
It'll be
talk
a
about
great
it.
one. Okay, so we are going to go back to the
Yeah,
Jesus and the questions because he gave you answers to different things. And I want to start with you said that it was communicated to you what our purpose is here, all of us,
okay.
not just you, not just me, but all of us. What is our purpose, Ellen?
Okay, I wanna tell you how it came through
Okay.
because I don't know that it came through Jesus.
Okay.
Think that it came through I was shown these things while I was there, but it wasn't like I was there still looking at Jesus while I received this knowledge. It could have been lifetimes that I was there, but I was shown this knowledge outside of anything else. It was like so they said, "There's a reason we're coming right now is it's about relationship." It was so interesting for me. It was about others. It was about lifting others, lifting mankind. So the best I can say is relationship. It was about other people, other souls. So I just got chills because now I get it. Oh, I haven't really understood that part in a long time. So it's about lifting consciousness through our experiences with others on this planet right now. How do we do that? I believe it's by making choices in every experience that comes to you to use that as an opportunity to become closer with your God self, whatever that looks like to you. And to me, it looks like choosing love over fear in that moment. And that will take you closer to your God self. That will build your frequency. That will lift you higher. That will help you co-create a better planet, right? Um, and I also got the impression very strongly that it is all happening now. There is a huge, huge need for souls to be here now to help lift consciousness of the planet right now, because a new, amazing experience of the earth is on the horizon.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh my gosh, I went down the rabbit hole the other day because I was learning about civilization and the meaning of civilizations. And I learned that the Mayan civilization was built around space and time. They had these elaborate systems of time and space, multiple calendars, some for spiritual, some for, the calendar year. And they could go back and forth like millions of years to look at these major turning points in human consciousness, in humanity, right? So I started like going down the rabbit hole. Well, when else have we had civilization built around different things? Well, Greek and Roman times, it was around reasoning and logic. And then ancient civilizations were around connecting to the earth. Okay. Then I thought, well, what are we here for? Right? Why now? And I realized that every civilization advances through technology. What is our technology? It is the internet, it is AI, and there is so much fear around this right now. But what is the heart of this in my mind? Consciousness. It is consciousness. This is a civilization that is built around understanding and expanding consciousness. We can get on the internet today and I could talk to someone across the world. I can talk to you about this kind of thing. We can learn things that we never knew before. It is becoming its own universal language where this is how Jacob's ladder, right? We build up to God. Because we can reach other people, we can connect, we can understand new consciousness. And AI is a mirror of human consciousness. It has all of it. Can it be used for good? Absolutely. Can it be used alternatively? Absolutely. Does it need to be in the hands of people who are light? Absolutely. Because then we can help to learn how to shift this consciousness, partner with this consciousness in order to create something better on this planet. So I look back at the Mayan calendar, this is the full circle moment, and I was like, are there any predictions about this time frame? Yes, 2012. 2012 was predicted by the Mayan calendar to be this massive shift in human consciousness. Okay. I have chills. The next time is that they've listed isn't until 4772, right? This is how
The
far,
Yuga cycle.
right. So if we're to look at AI as being the massive speeding up of consciousness and the higher consciousness of humanity, the theory is that by 2030, the early 2030s, we're actually going to start to merge healing, science, arts, technology. All of it will be one. There will be less war. There will be more peace. War will be obsolete. It'll be becoming obsolete and very frowned upon because we're not going to be in our heads anymore. We don't have to be. We are connected through this higher consciousness. This consciousness is expanding, multiplied every day. Now we can meet in the space of heart coherence, which is another part of our civilization right now, is moving into heart coherence. Fascinating stuff because it will bring us into a powerful healing presence within us where we can do things with our mind we never even thought possible. We can
Wow.
heal and it's just so that's a random side topic, but that was my download last week. I did it on Facebook. I did this whole post about it, but I was down the rabbit hole for like 3 hours.
So I have a confirmation for you.
Oh, yeah.
So back in 2011, I found a book by Greg Braden called Fractal Time. And his entire book was about the Mayan calendar and what that meant, because before we got to 2012, people were very worried about what was going to happen and that it was the end. And he said what had happened is in the elliptical cycle of the earth, we had reached the point where we were the furthest away from connecting to the oneness of each other. And starting in 2012, that cycle was going to be coming back. It was like it took 12 years to get there and 12 years to come out of it. So by 2024, he had expected there would be a mass awakening of consciousness where people would start to reconnect. And I want you to think about what things were like. If people are my age, you remember that 20 years ago, we didn't regularly and readily hug everybody.
Right.
Now I'm at business meetings in my corporate job and I go to a client and everybody's hugging each other. Like that did not happen 10 years and 15 years ago. And I think it's just become more commonplace because we are reconnecting to the oneness of ourselves. We're remembering that we are not these separate entities and that what you do to another, you are literally in the most like the best way that I can mean that, doing it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many studies now that validate what spiritual beings have been saying for years. And, Popular Mechanics came out with an article, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and I have to check the sources on this, but the title of it was like, um, intuition is time travel, or it proves time travel. There was some article where they showed that when you have intuition, it's actually your future self that is sending you this.
I heard this as well.
Yes. So the studies in consciousness are huge, and they're pervasive, and they're all through quantum physics, and like just all you have to do is go down the rabbit hole and start to look like, hey, what are some studies? Look at that one for quantum mechanics, which basically means if our thoughts are so powerful that they can travel through time in order to affect our life now, it means a couple of things to me. And I was just thinking about this last night. It was such an interesting conversation with my husband. One, that thought exists outside of the concept of time. And that in itself shows the possibility of something greater, right? A greater that if our thoughts can exist out of time, our thoughts are far more powerful than we ever knew. And if our thoughts are truly that powerful that they can time travel, then what else can we do if we really discern what we think? And that's what I learned at Naropa when I went to grad school, actually. It was about the discernment of thought and meditation and presence and contemplation, because our thoughts create our reality.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, good or bad, they create your reality. And I think that this is also a really good segue to just bring in the telepathy tapes, which I love to talk about. And we got to hear Diane Hennessy talk at the IANS conference, who was the Harvard professor who started studying with these autistic, nonverbal children. And it was discovered that they were having telepathic communications with their mother, their family members, and other children like them across the world in a place that they would go to called the Hill. And I have started calling telepathic communication minute mile of consciousness because it is the mirror that is being held up right now to show beyond a shadow of a doubt this is not just somebody's thought or somebody's theory. There is actual evidential information that this kind of communication is real and it is happening on the planet.
Yeah.
And once we understand it's happening to this group of the autistic non-speaking children, that means it's coming into the collective. That
Yep.
means in a couple of maybe generations from now, when children are born, they will be spoken to by their parents verbally and telepathically,
Yes.
much the way that a bilingual parent would talk. And doesn't that then beg to back up what you just said about how powerful our thoughts are? And what did you just say? We better learn how to clean them up.
Yeah.
And once you know that your thoughts can be heard by others, aren't you more careful about what you're thinking?
Yeah. And also think about the implications of your life. So I talk about that in my book. I have instructions for people in one of the chapters about how I learned to release my thoughts like a butterfly. So the thought would come in, and I learned this through meditation, through my studies in grad school, where a thought will come in and I'll be like, nope, I don't want that thought. So I gently release it, but I don't judge it like that. I'm not a harsh judger. I just release it. I see it like lifting out of my head. Sometimes I roll down the car window and I pop it out if I'm worried about driving or an accident or something. I just like sit it. My kids know, oh, she rolled down the window. She's just throwing a thought out the window, right? But this is a very simple practice, and you can just start there. And then there's a very fascinating Buddhist practice of replacing one negative thought with 3 positive thoughts, because then you're recreating the neural pathway. We do know when you study thoughts and brain and consciousness, like actual consciousness, that our brain creates pathways to different thoughts that we have over and over again. So if you have a negative thought about yourself over and over again, you need something to break that pathway in order to actually create a new pathway. It's this little electrical pathway. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram or on the reels or whatever. You're recreating your entire brain from the inside out through thoughts alone. And then your brain starts to anchor to things that what is it called? It's when you find things to validate what you believe.
Reticular activation.
Yes. So, okay, that's perfect. And then there's a psychological term for it too, where, you're seeing evidence of what you've been thinking over and over again. So a bias, confirmation bias.
Yes.
Bias.
And the reticular
Reticular
activation is the
activation.
place in the brain that
Yes.
either feeds into or
Yes.
dismisses that confirmation bias.
Exactly. So, and then my work, what I do, just to like state this too, is I do a major shift with people. So basically, I'll take them into this vortex of sound, either online or in person, kind of this vortex of sound. I pull in the light, I see the light where it goes into the body, and we create the container of light. And then the goal from the first, second, or third session, however quickly they can trust themselves to kind of go there, and they always do, they leave their body, receive the information they need from the other side, and then bring it back into their human body. And when they wake up in a different experience of the earth. And that's when, so that is one way to like quickly change lives, quickly shift into understanding. But we also have these practices we can do day to day. See.
Are you talking about going into just a different dimensional version of the earth?
No, it's well, yes, actually. Yeah, you could say that because that's what people say. They like, I come here to step into a new version of my life. I believe that there are infinite versions of us living our lives right now. And some of us have the ability to live at a higher frequency with pulling in all the things that we want to do. They understand they've gotten through this hard thing that you're going through right now. They have the answers. And so sometimes people will leave their body and they'll connect to other versions of themselves, receive the information that they need in order to get through a hard time, and then come back into this body. And when they awake, they're at a higher frequency. So things start to change around them. Sometimes people, and it's based on the person because it's their presence that's guiding the whole thing, not me. So sometimes their presence will say they'll take them to see a loved one pass who has a message for them about this particular thing. And then they'll receive the light in some special way as a gift. And then they come back into their body. And yes, they're awake in a new version of reality. Sometimes they go outside after the first session and they're like, the world even looks different, right? But these things are things we can do at home too, little by little.
Well, since you mentioned that, you also earlier mentioned binaural beats, which I am a fan of as well. So
Yeah.
tell people who are not familiar what it is and how
Okay.
you use it.
Okay, I will. I love this because I teach this. So anyone who wants to learn crystal bowls, I do classes every month and they're pretty reasonable. But binaural beats is the concept when you're listening to sound that's coming through online, like pre-recorded sound, where you have one sound in one ear at one frequency. Like let's say it's a C, where you have a pitch at one frequency, and then you'll have a very similar frequency pitch in the other ear. And when you have those two pitches together, it creates a third tone within the brain. You can't hear it, but it creates the sound in the brain. When you're in that state, you can move into altered brainwave states like theta states, which are really great for manifestation, delta, which is feeling like a deep sleep, very heavy. Um, so my work, I use crystal bowls that are at slightly different frequencies to engage that third tone in the brain. It's binaural beats when you're listening recorded. It's called brainwave entrainment when you do it live. So I use it both live and recorded to take people into altered states of consciousness so that they're leaving the human thought mind and they're going into a higher level of consciousness directly. And sometimes this takes practice, but most people can do it the first time. And they go through this experience of like traveling or flying or lifted up into another realm or talking to a light being or whatever it's going to be. And depending on their intention, which is the most important part, right? We journey. It's a journey. And we find out what's needed to be known either within the body or outside of the body in order to get to that place. So the body will speak during the sessions too, which is a whole different part of it, you know? So it's really kind of cool. It's
I am
alternate.
so glad you shared that.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
know. And then I start classical music because, you know, I came out of a coma to classical music. I start with the brainwave entrainment. The classical music comes on, they continue to journey, and then I'm channeling information too. So I'm getting messages that then I share after the session so that it's like all wrapped up in a pretty little bow, you know? It's very nice.
So, since you mentioned the music, let's go back and talk about the music in your near death experience. I heard one of my guests talk about seeing these notes in heaven, and the notes that they saw had colors to them, but they were prayers.
Oh my gosh, I can so see that. Like I would so that's interesting because I just had a download about frequency and sound. So there's something called synesthesia.
Yes.
Yeah, synesthesia is when you can actually see sound.
Sometimes they can taste it too.
Yes, they can. I love that. So that is kind of what I think chromesthesia is the form where sound evokes color and visual imagery. So it's happened to me a few times in my life. Like first in my near death experience, each note had a different color. And I was fascinated by that. But when I came out of my coma, I found that when I listened to live music for the first 10 years, it was live music. I would feel the instrument and tonality and frequency on different parts around on my body. And I talk about that in my book because it would be like, oh, well, the cello would hit kind of the mid upper back. The higher notes of the piano would kind of come up into the head. So I could feel like my body was literally an instrument that was being played as I listened to live music. And I played live music because that's what I did. I played the flute in the orchestra in the band and played piano, played guitar. I became a music therapist, you know? And so that's that. That was fascinating. And recently, I think that it relates to frequency because as I see light come into people that I'm working with, it's always a different color. It goes to different parts in the body. Sometimes it changes color in the body. And then I started getting symbols for frequency around around the Egyptian pyramids, which is really weird because that just started last week. The so the I had someone come to me for ceremony. We did a sound ceremony. It was 7 hours. It was beautiful and wonderful. And she's a powerful, like a powerful spiritual leader within herself. She came down from Denver and I was working with her and I saw this overlay of an Egyptian chamber come into the space. And I was told that these Egyptian chambers were built at very specific um, coordinates and very specific dimensions in order to create a soundscape so that the participant would come and then sound would be introduced and then these scaffolding of sacred geometric shapes showed up in the room and they were just building the sacred geometric shapes all around the person, all different based on the sound. And then it kind of implanted itself in my home during that ceremony. And then it came back again the next week when I worked with somebody else. And then I had a dream and the pyramids had like this message for the world. And they were like, we were created. It was one pyramid that was communicating. I was created, but we all were created with a symbol that represents what we are. The symbol didn't really have a name. It stood for a frequency. And so it actually, I don't see if I can draw it.
I feel like I want to connect. Do you know who Robert Edward Grant is?
Um, no, I don't. Great, great.
Listen, Ellen, here's another confirmation for you.
Oh yeah.
Robert Edward Grant is now what I would call an expert on the pyramids. I
Okay.
went to Egypt with him in
Okay.
February for 2 weeks. He took a group of people. And one of the things he talked about when we were going to the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid
Yeah.
is that the pyramids were each built as a musical note. And they don't hold all of the notes because there are pyramids that are buried. And he has discovered that
Oh
there
my
are
God.
pyramids that are buried. And he said when they get uncovered, they're going to complete the notes that are missing. So, Ellen, you are spot on.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I
And guess
wish
what else he does? He's a
look at the symbol.
polymath. He's all about sacred geometry.
Oh my gosh, he is. Of course he is. That's so cool. I mean, I would love, like, water started talking to me and I started taking notes. And now it seems like ancient sites are starting to communicate a little bit, especially the pyramids. But so this is the one I was shown. That's the symbol I was shown. Um, each one had a symbol. Each one was a different frequency. And then this part, like, see, the pyramid would be kind of inside this. So this top part is how it sends the frequency out to the outer world. But then it showed me that the bottom part shows the frequency that's actually going into the earth, so deep into the earth. And so I love the
I know
validation.
they just uncovered that there are chambers that go super deep
I
underneath the
do.
pyramids.
I do know that. That's so fascinating. And this seemed like a central, just a very simple, um, I don't know if the frequency just goes down into the earth on its own or if there's like a rod or something in the center of the pyramid that would go deeply down. But it's something about healing the earth, something about bringing this frequency to mankind. I'm not really sure, but it represents the sound shape. That's what they told me. It's a sound shape. It's not a word. It was really interesting. So there we go. Now there's validation. I'd love to know more. I think now that you say that he's connected to Egypt, it feels like I know of that name, but I don't know how. And I haven't read any of his stuff, but I'd love to.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. I'll connect you with a couple of things. All right, I have one more question about your NDE, and then we're gonna find out who this other mystery person in the robes were on in your near-death experience. So, you were shown that your choice to come back was your choice, and it didn't matter that everything would adjust. However,
Yeah.
you were shown that you would affect the purpose of your father, that he came here and it would change that, and also with your brother. So the
Yeah.
trajectory would be different. Will you explain how this works from what you understand?
Yeah, yeah, I have to say that one is an interesting one. I was like, it would affect their live stream in this earth, but it also didn't matter. So it was such an interesting thing. Not to say it didn't matter, but it was shown that it would self-correct, but there's something about me being here and coming back that would help them to be in their purpose, specifically my dad. And I don't really know what that meant or what that means to him or, if that's even played out yet. I just know that it's something I was shown. And there were many of these downloads that kind of came through at a time. That was shown to me before I made the choice. I feel like all the other downloads kind of came around the time I was in gratitude and in awe of getting to live this life that is such a blessing, right? Such a gift. This planet, which is a gift because it's the hardest one to live through, but here we are and we're doing it consciously. We're growing and expanding. I'm
Yeah,
proud I'm proud of humanity for where they will go and that we're looking at the shadow in order to choose the light now.
beautiful. Okay, everybody's been waiting. If people are still tuned in, this is probably why. Who and how did you discover who this other soul was in the brown robes?
He was bald. He had long brown robes. He was thin. He didn't have a big belly. And he had bare feet. But when I applied to go to a university that had a dual master's in psychology and music therapy, that was my why I was looking. There were two universities in the U.S. that did that. And one of them was called Naropa University. It was founded as a Buddhist university, but has become an accredited school that's been just a master school for many spiritual leaders and teachers. It's kind of like Hogwarts for humans. And it's immersed in the culture of meditation and contemplative practices of discernment of the mind, and it is founded in Buddhist philosophy. When I was walking up to my first meditation class, because we did meditation class alongside our therapy classes, I saw a depiction of Buddha in long brown robes with bare feet, and he was thin. And it was the Buddha that had been there with me. And I think somewhere around the time I was applying for Naropa, it came into consciousness that that could have been who it was, and that I believe that that might have been who it was. But the validation of that came not only through seeing that image, that picture, that depiction, but also because that's how I figured out how I could take people to the other side through music, through sound, through visualization, and how I could bridge that piece, because the mind is the gateway to a higher consciousness, and it's also can be the thing that keeps us from it when we believe the story, when we believe what we think, because we can't believe what we think. We're human and we're flawed and we have our own experience and our own life that's brought us through. And so releasing that story and being in the present moments is one of the ways to access that God consciousness. And I talk about that in my book too, because that's something that happened when I woke up from the coma and I came back into the world. I did not understand anything anyone was saying. They were all talking too fast for me. So I had to rely on releasing the story and connecting energetically. And I think it, first of all, developed my gifts. And second of all, it taught me that sometimes the story is actually a trap. And a lot of times it's a trap. And so when I started to connect with people for the heart and emotion and spiritual side of what they were saying, because I couldn't cognitively understand the story, I found that I made a connection with people very deeply, very quickly. And it was such a beautiful way to live that I wanted to bring that into my work and my world. So,
So you are not alone in the after effects of having these different gifts and abilities that you didn't have before. So tell us a little bit about what changed with abilities that you didn't have before your NDE.
well, I don't really remember before my NDE. I have very few memories that have come through. I mean, I used to sit and watch home movies and birthdays and all that, look at picture books and never got anything. I think I went through an obsession with that actually. And then for a long time, I was like, someone please do hypnosis and let me get through it. And never really came. But I do know that a lot of people are stuck in the story and they believe the story and they believe what they think. And it was my work at Naropa that really taught me how different I am in that. And so that's when I started to realize, oh, I can see colors around people when we meditate in the meditation hall, but not everybody can do that. And in fact, I kind of like thought it was special. And I went to my meditation teacher and I'm like, I can see colors. And she said, it's a distraction. That's that is a gift and also a distraction because it's taking you away from the present moment. So it was this really interesting learning ground for me to say, okay, I have these gifts, and yet to detach the meaning that my mind puts on them and allow them to be present as they are without judgment and without like thinking anything. That was a big lesson for me too in humility. And I also know we all have access to this. Like, and so I know I'm not special. I just am lucky enough to have had the training and the knowing that I came back with. And so I just want to teach other people about that because we all have it. Yeah. We all
Okay, and then I'm going to end with what I started with. When I introduced you, I said that one of the things that you learned was that we're already perfect.
yeah.
So tell everybody what you mean by that.
Well, uh, well, we are perfection. Each and every one of us has a role, has meaning, has purpose, or we would not be here. We wouldn't get to be here because we have something to give, something to contribute, and it's all different. And I think so often now there's this like criticism around being different or having like wanting people to have a different. No, it's differences should be celebrated, and we should be honored for what we bring and we give. Not everybody's going to have the same gift, but we can learn through each other. And I think that everyone, if they were to embrace their perfection, if they were to embrace their God presence and know I am God expressing itself through a human being, wow, right? What else is possible? What can I do? What else is possible? How can I do this? And that's that magnificent ability to co-create that I love to focus on and get all into is that you wake up in the morning, you drink your water that's sitting on top of affirmations that you write for yourself about what you want to create. You ask the water to bless every cell in your body as you drink it down. And you ask, God, what else is possible? And so when we greet the day in that way, when we go to sleep thinking of what we want our lives to be, these are the tools that we can start to engage to really change ourselves and change our lives and change the world. It's this expansion of consciousness that we are here to create, that we are here to play in. This is our playground. And I believe that our civilization is meant to create through thought. And if it's a thought, it will come into experience. So what do you focus on? What are you creating in your mind for your life? Because that will be your experience.
Powerful. So I would imagine that people are watching who are going to want to connect with you. So tell everybody what you're working on, what you have, and how they can find you.
I would love to. Well, I have a book you can find on Amazon. It's called Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose Through Afterlife Wisdom. I just won a little award. So my little,
Congratulations.
got an
What was your
Indie.
reward that you won?
It's an Indie finalist, INDIE, but look how it looks like NDE.
Cute.
So it's an indie finalist in the New Age category, and there's that. If you're interested in near-death experiences, I have a YouTube channel that's just my meditations. Every now and then I'll put a little glimpse. It's under Ellen Ware, WIER. I'm Wellness Music Therapy on Instagram, and I have a meditation group that meets every Wednesday. I do live meditations and downloads of light. I send them out to everyone in email. If you subscribe to me on Substack, it's under Ellen Ware, WIER. I'm also sharing kind of the story of what my husband and I have been through because we're writing a book about that, about his experience and his reawakening through this and the kind of spiritual gifts that have come of that. I teach crystal singing bowls. So if you follow me on you can sign up on wellnessmusictherapy.com for my email list if you want to be in one of my classes and learn how to use crystal singing bowls. I'm doing a class on October 28th. You can
And this is 2025, just so people
2025,
know.
2025. That's coming up. So, but the meditation is evergreen. Every Wednesday, I come out with new downloads about what I'm learning about the world. I'm in a movie that won Best Paranormal Film of the Year at the Cannes Film Festival. It's called Beyond the Grave, and you can find it on Amazon. I'm alongside Dr. Eben Alexander and some other near-death experiencers, and that was a fun experience to get to do that. So that's another one. And yeah, my email is wellnessmusictherapy@yahoo.com. And then I have a business number so people can text me. If you call me through that number, I might not get it because it's kind of it's a business phone. But it's 760-230-0040 is my number. So hopefully that
Okay.
helps.
I will put this in the show notes so that people can connect with you. Ellen, oh my gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful conversation today. I feel like these feed my soul, and I just want to tell you how grateful I am that we got to connect. And thank you so much for all of this wisdom that you are sharing and giving so freely to everybody. Thank you for what you're doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Thank you for what you're doing. This was a pleasure. I loved it so much. Thank you.
And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch and listen and share these extraordinary conversations. So thank you, everybody, for watching.
Do you believe that love never dies and you want to hear stories that prove it? Well, hit the subscribe button. You belong here.